Hi, everybody. In light of some recent pricing changes from Unity, I thought I would take this opportunity to look at a couple of other competing game engines. So the two that I had in mind were Godot, or however you'd like to pronounce it, and also Unreal Engine. So I'm going to kind of go through them in a little unscripted manner, and I'll maybe refer to tutorials as needed, but this is going to be a little bit more of a raw video. And I'll give my reactions to the environment coming from a Unity background, and so this will be kind of a fresh look for me. So let's see, I've installed Godot and created this sample project. And that seems pretty similar to Unity. So new projects, you can import existing projects, it looks like. And again, this is my first time looking at any of this UI. So I will open that up. Okay, the scene view looks pretty, I'm going to call it the scene view. Looks pretty similar to Unity. The first thing my eye is drawn to is up top. I've got 2D and 3D view, which I don't have anything in the scene yet, so that's to be expected, but it looks pretty similar. And I've got scripts, which I've installed the mono version of Godot, so I'm expecting to be using C#, but we'll see if I did that correctly or not. I'm not sure what asset lib is. Maybe that's similar to the asset store in Unity. Looks like it might be. Okay. Next up, I'm going to try to add something to my scene. And so the next thing that my eye is drawn to is the leftover here, where it looks like I can create new scenes and a user interface or other nodes. So it'll be interesting to find out what node means. My guess would be something like a game object in Unity. Well, let's see. So do I know what scene I'm in now? It says empty. So let's go ahead and try to create a new 2D scene. And, okay. So it looks like I've created a new scene. And, oh, I might have been in a different scene with some existing nodes last time. So let's go ahead and actually just save this scene while I'm at it. Node 2D SCN looks like their extension for scenes. And okay, so I'm in the 2D view. I can switch to the 3D view. All right, so I've got a node. I can add. Let's see what I can do with it. Add child nodes. Attach a script. Again, seems to have an analog in Unity where you can add components. So we'll have to see what they consider to be a component. Adding children to this also exists in Unity. Can have nested objects. So what do I want to add as a child to this? Looks like I have types of node 2Ds. Okay. An animated sprite. Maybe there's a static sprite. There is a sprite 2D. General purpose sprite node. We'll create that. And okay, so did that. Let me just double check if that changed something on the right. Delete that node. Okay, so this is similar to the Unity object properties window. So I wonder if I can attach, oh yeah, so can I attach something over here? Add metadata. Don't want to do that. Okay, transform. All right, I'm going to add that child node. Sprite 2D. Let's just take a look at what else they have. Polygons, paths, tile maps, navigation, lines, particles, and bones, etc. Okay. Once I've created that, let's see how I can add an actual sprite to it. So over on the right here, I've got some transform stuff. I can change its offset. Let's see what that is. So 10 pixels over. Centered. Okay, so both the Sprite 2D and the Node 2D have positions, and that'll be interesting to see what the difference is there. Okay, everything's got a transform, and the sprite also has an offset, but not a transform. Got it. And it looks like here is the texture. So let's see, a new image texture, 2D, new noise texture, 2D, a new placeholder texture. Well, that sounds good. I like placeholders. And, often I'll use other programs to edit my sprites. But it looks like this placeholder will just be magenta. When I change this, it changes the position, which looks to be in the center of it. It's because I'm actually changing the position and the scale. Cool. Now I wonder if I can... I'm going to pause here and maybe go make my own texture real quick. Okay, so I saved a sprite that I edited in paint.net that I got from some asset pack, and just saved it into the directory where I had put this Godot project. And so now it shows up here in my file system view. So that's this sprite. It's a little fire. Let me try some things. What if I drag it here? Adding sprite 2D, drag and drop to add as a child of the current scene's root node. Hold control when dropping to add as a child of the selected node. Okay. Hold shift to drop as a sibling. Interesting. So I'm going to drag it just somewhere random here. Also, it looks like the filter, similar to Unity by default, is not necessarily pixel art friendly. So that's fine. We can probably change that. Filter proper. No, that's filter the properties. If I right click on this, resource. Okay. Will this let me change that filter? Here it shows up kind of pixel perfect, as it were. Material, texture. Oh, filter inherit. All right, so if I change that to nearest neighbor, okay. So that's the equivalent of the point filter in Unity. So you don't get those blurry edges on your pixel art. Okay, so now that I wonder if that's per instance of this sprite, because in Unity, when you have that asset, you can set the filter at the asset level. So yeah, so every time I drag it in, maybe there's a default filter for this asset, which I'll have to figure out some other time. But okay, and then it's created new children of the root node. So my guess is every scene needs a root node, maybe? I wonder if can you even delete that? Delete the root node. Oh, okay, and then you have to create the root node. So we'll Control Z that. All right, let's try the control drag and drop. Well, that says selected object, so maybe I have to have it selected here. Control drag and drop makes it, yeah, okay. And the reason it did that is probably because I had the scale changed on this parent object. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, let's get rid of that one. So probably just dragging it into the scene view makes more sense. Now, let's check this transform as I do this. Position and offset. So this is a 16 by 16 sprite. So if I set the scale to 1, the way it works in Unity is, well, if you're using the pixel perfect camera, you can kind of set the how many pixels you want to use for each pixel in the sprite in your assets. So I'll have to see how that works here. I noticed there's not necessarily a quote unquote camera object. So that'll be interesting to see. Let's just play it now. and see what happens. No main scene has ever been defined. Uh, you can change it later in project settings, so I'll just select the current. It's cool. There we go. So now, if I scale that window, that's fine. It's sort of staying as is. Okay, I'm going to try to take a little snippet of this and see how many pixels it is. Okay, so when I took a screenshot of that, it was kind of a one-to-one translation. So 1 pixel in my sprite ended up being 1 pixel on my display, which is straightforward. Now, I might want to scale that differently. I'll have to look up some documentation on how the pixel perfect camera works in this tool. But that's interesting to know. Okay, close that. All right, so then it popped up a little window. Looks like it made a build, which it's running. And I'm wondering, so there's probably like a build output as well, I guess. By the way, that build was just super fast. I'm not running like the most impressive rig here in terms of my computer. GeForce RTX 2060, and I don't want to embarrass myself with my machine stats. But that is a lot faster than Unity. Okay. I'm going to see if I can export this project. Export. Oh, wait, I missed something here. Android, okay, build template. Add. Windows, okay. All right, so UWP versus Windows Desktop. Cool. No export template found. No export template found. Manage export templates. Okay, so I can export a zip file. All right, best available mirror. Download and install. Seems straightforward. Now if I export, I don't get that warning, but the RC edit tool must be configured to change the icon or the, okay, change that information. All right, well, I won't change the icon for now. Let's just see. Okay. Export project or export all? Export the project for all the presets defined. Okay. Completed with warnings. Oh, well, you know, warnings aren't so bad. Let's see if it actually outputs something. Okay, so it looks like it did output 3 files in the directory that I specified. So there's a testbuild.console, testbuild.exe, and pck. So yeah, pretty good. So 69 megabytes. I'll have to try. I don't know exactly what the sort of baseline Unity build was, but yeah, I think it's probably comparable. Definitely a lot cleaner in terms of what the output looks like and the directory structure. So if I run the test build, okay, that works. I've got the splash screen there. The console, it'll be interesting. I wonder if that's just, I'll have to figure out what that's for exactly. I know with Unity, if you have the build that you output, you can pass in command line arguments to. So we'll see how that works in Godot. But yeah, with the splash screen that ran, so I think the next step is to try to get some script working. All right, so let's attempt that. Also, let's see, I want to navigate to, so in Unity I can, okay, so you can double click on the icon, that'll navigate to where that object is in the scene. All right, let's use the first one here. Right click and attach a script. Okay, interesting. So I can specify the language at this point. So I'm wondering if that means, maybe it does mean that you can mix C# and GD script. Again, I'm coming at this cold, so I'm not really aware of a lot of the features. Nor do I know the GD script syntax, which, again, I'm going to assume is their proprietary scripting language. I'm more familiar with C#, so I'll do that. Built-in script. Don't have that option. Do I have it with this? Oh, I do have it with that. Okay. See what that means later. Class name, not applicable. And I can't modify it. Inherits sprite ID. Invalid inherited path name. So I'm wondering, inheritance in a C# context, is you can inherit one class from another. So do they mean inheritance in a different way? Inherit node. That might not mean inherit in the C# context. I'm just going to do the defaults. Test sprite, script path is valid. We'll create a new script. And yeah, very similar to Unity. They're using partial classes, I notice. Interesting. So that I can kind of break up my functionality. That way I usually don't use partial classes and try to keep it contained. I wonder if I can remove that and if it'll still compile. Let's say that, see what happens. Failed to output missing partial modifier. Okay, so you do have, maybe this is a requirement, you have to use partial classes. All right. Inherits from Sprite 2D. Now, again, I'm using the in-engine editor. I'm going to try to load this in Visual Studio. I'm noticing, unlike Unity, it doesn't seem that there's a Visual Studio project generated. Oh, haha, I spoke too soon. Create a C# solution. And did it work? I don't know. I don't see an SLN file. Tools, C#, create it, okay, or cancel. That is interesting. I wonder what that did. Tell me in the comments what that did. Oh, it did do something. Okay, it's just hidden in the file system view. Okay, so it's here. Okay, they hide some of the files. Also, I'm noticing it looks like they added a git ignore. That's kind of nice. With some, okay. Oops. Sorry, I loaded it on another window here, but just starts off with this and ignores the .godot file. Okay, well, let me try to open this solution. And editing it in Visual Studio will certainly allow me to utilize all of the shortcuts that I'm used to Navigation will be a lot easier for me. So for instance here, if I wanted to see the definition of Sprite 2D in Visual Studio, I would hit F12. It doesn't do anything in Godot, which is fine. Okay, so I open my script. And by the way, I recently installed Visual Studio 2022, so I'm probably going to be configuring that a little more. Prior to that, I was running 2019. Okay, so Sprite 2D. Inherits from Node 2D. Node 2D inherits from canvas item. And canvas item inherits from node. Oops. And node inherits from Godot object. That is, is this a 2022 thing? What on earth is that? That must be a VS 2022 thing. I don't know. Gotta get rid of that. All right, which just inherits from iDisposable. So that's kind of all the way up the chain there. Implements iDisposable. Okay, well that gives me an idea. So if I were to, so I can have that as an option, and I can have this editor as an option. I prefer the syntax highlighting of Visual Studio. Maybe the syntax highlighting is configurable here. We'll have to see. But I'm noticing, a couple of different functions which are, again, very similar to Unity. I'm going to guess that the ready node is similar to the ready function is similar to the start or awake function in Unity, called when the node enters the scene tree for the first time. Definitely, I'm sure there's a cheat sheet that compares, these method names to their equivalent in Unity or Unreal. I'm guessing that translation is a little bit different, but and then process is going to be the frame one. Yep, the every frame. So again, that's like the update in Unity or the fixed update. That'll be interesting. So this is called every frame. Unity has a couple different per frame or I should say periodic functions. They have update and fixed update. Update being called every frame, and fixed update called sort of depending on the physics of your project. And okay, yeah, so we'll have to see that. So the delta time, yeah, in Unity, that would just be time.delta time. And then here it's just passed in as a double. Interesting. Okay, so they're using doubles. Unity uses floats predominantly. Okay, so let's try to do something in the process function. And I'll try to modify the position of this object, or node, I should say. And let's see. So in Unity, this would be on a transform. Well, we do have a transform. Okay. And okay, so yeah, and similar to Unity, yeah, you can't modify the return value. It's a variable. So I want to set the transform, which is of type transform 2D. So again, I haven't consulted any tutorials on this, so there's probably a lot of different ways to do what I'm doing. Actually, is there a position? So no, there's no, it's just X. So yeah, in Unity, it would be transform dot position, which would be a vector 3, and then you would modify that. So let's see if I can set this. And then maybe set it back to this. Oh, I noticed there was, vector 2. X is, X is a vector 2. That's interesting to me. Z. And Y. No, there's a Y. Okay, yeah. Because it's obviously 2D. So Y is a vector 2. It's interesting that it's not a scalar. So in Unity, Y would be a float. That is interesting. What if they have us? Let's just see what's available on the transform here. Scale, skew, translated, origin. I mean, okay, so t.x dot x, t.x dot y. That's kind of breaking my brain. This is probably the wrong way to do it, but whatever. Also, then, yeah, double the float. Okay. All right, so that's interesting. That's a float. I'll just cast this as a float. And then I'm guessing this will, well, the idea is that it would change the x position of this particular node over time. You know, that doesn't get into physics, and, you know, if there are the equivalent of rigid bodies that they have in Unity. But let's see. Okay, and then because I edited it outside of Godot, I want to reload and then press play. Ooh, all right. So instead of changing the position as I expected to, I am in fact changing the horizontal scale, it appears. Not what I intended. Okay, so let's look at it in the editor. Can I get back to that scene view? If I close this. Oops. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Let's see. So I'm in the 2D. All right. There. Oh, just this tab. Also, let's just see what they look like. Can I find these things in 3? Okay, so clicking on it, if you go to 3D view and you click over here, it's gonna kick you back into 2D view. Interesting. All right, so I had my script on this one. No. Yeah. No 2D canvas item node. Canvas item node. Oh, I kind of missed it here. All right, down here. What if I just add another script and just see what that looks like? That's interesting. So I wonder how to have multiple scripts on the same node, if you even can. I mean, that's definitely a huge part of Unity. So new script. Do a third one. Got into the third one. Okay, so I can swap there. Yeah, but see, it's like I can choose from. Can I like grab one of these and pull it there? Okay. Huh. I'll have to figure out how to do the multiple script thing later. And this is the one I want. Okay, so let's see if we can fix that behavior. I'm going to look in the scene view and just see how to manually modify the transform. So the transform position here from 130 to 140 does move it to the right. So transform position, X rotation scale. So that does seem to be what I want to do. Let's see what offset does. So offset is yet again another, is just specific to the sprite 2D. I'm going to change the transform instead, as I imagine if I were to add colliders at some point, I would want to change the whole node's position. Let's go and take a look here. Okay, so transform. Yeah, I'm not seeing a position. So I think I'm going to leverage documentation, or maybe I'll ask ChatGPT. Okay. Please write a Godot C# script to modify the position of a sprite node over time. I stumped it. Okay, and here it's from node. The sprite you want to move, the target position the sprite will move to, duration of the animation. Okay, get nodes, maybe like get component or find object or something. Doing some tweens. This is a little more than I wanted at the start. Okay, so this is giving me an animation that lasts a certain amount of time, and okay, it may be handled either on another thread or somehow asynchronously. It's interesting. Let's just ask, can you write this in the process function of the script instead? Okay, so sprite position, direction, speed. Okay, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Is the position, and it gets it from this. Okay, so I maybe didn't specify a 2D sprite. Is that right? Because I'm seeing here they're getting something of type sprite, and I have something of type sprite 2D. So let's see if sprite 2D has a position. It does. I did not need to go to the transform, which tripped me up due to my Unity background. Okay, and then here I'll just direction vector 2. Now, I wouldn't expect this to work, and it doesn't because position probably is not variable. So Gotta cast it. Okay. Let's run it again. There's an error that went by that I didn't quite see. Something about child. Okay, so I think it is working slowly. And, you know, I could specify a speed or something like that, which would make this go faster. I wonder if there's a way to zoom in on this from a camera perspective. But I think I'll probably stop this video at this point. So that's great. Seems pretty straightforward to use and would be, you know, I'm not seeing any showstoppers, at least in this cursory look. So that's a good sign. Thanks for sticking with me until the end of the video as I stumble around like a newborn deer with these tools. Next up, I'll try this with Unreal Engine. All right, thanks and have a great day.